The main event of this week's edition of Monday Night Raw reportedly led to a backstage argument that nearly got physical between the Judgment Day, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Seth Rollins. Details on that, plus Dominik Mysterio is set to challenge for the NXT North American Championship on next week's edition of NXT. Ilia Draganov is the new #1 contender for the NXT Championship at NXT's Great American Bash. Why wasn't Carlito backstage or even shown at SmackDown last Friday at Madison Square Garden? And when could he be making his WWE return? We've got details on that, plus we've got the ratings for this Monday's edition of Monday Night Raw. The WWE stock price continues to surge to all-time highs, and have the Creed brothers joined the schism in NXT? Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. Let's start off talking about this story regarding the main event of Monday Night Raw this past Monday, and actually what happened after the show went off the air, leading to a backstage argument between all those involved in the main event. Now, Monday's edition of Raw was headlined by a 6-man tag team match featuring the Judgment Day, consisting of Damian Priest, Dominik Mysterio, and Finn Balor, taking on the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and the WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth freaking Rollins. The former walked away with the victory, but it appears that fireworks between the two sides didn't end at the bell. According to PW Insider, an argument broke out between those involved in the match once everyone got backstage. The lingering issues reportedly stemmed from a view that the match was quite, quote, clunky, mainly due to planned elements of the match, quote, literally changing at the last second. One wrestler in particular was said to be the source of many of the resulting problems. However, they remained unnamed by sources in order not to provoke a firestorm over the internet. While the argument was said to be heated, there was no danger of a physical altercation occurring. Ultimately, things dwindled down and everyone walked away from the situation without escalation, but most involved were still not happy with the situation as a whole. Now, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Selectors provided more details on this and said, "Boys will be boys, perhaps." Now, the July 10 episode of Monday Night Raw featured the Judgment Day taking on Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Seth Rollins in the main event. The match, of course, as I mentioned, saw the Judgment Day leading out victorious, but more people are talking about what happened after the match and reportedly what happened after the show went off the air in this backstage argument. As I mentioned, PW Insider reported that there was a non-physical argument that took place backstage among the participants in the match. It never elevated to the concern of violence per the report. However, those that Fightful have spoken to have since downplayed the situation. Sources, according to Fightful, close to the situation, say there was talk that was more of a difference of opinion than anything else. Fightful have been told that Kevin Owens actually left almost immediately following the match as he had prior obligations. Rollins got cracked pretty hard during the match, but haven't heard anything else out of the ordinary aside from frustration over how the match went. So those within the situation, and according to Fightful Selector, playing it down, saying it was just an argument, it was just a difference of opinion, it was no big deal. PW Insider saying that it was a little bit more heated than that. What are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts about the match itself? Was it clunky, and can you see why there was frustration? And once again, is this because of changes being made late in the day when it comes to WWE creative right now for the televised product? Let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. Now, sticking with the Judgment Day, they were heavily involved in this week's edition of NXT on USA Network, and they'll also be involved next week as well. Could Dominik Mysterio be on the verge of capturing his first singles title in WWE? Well, anything certainly is possible. And on last night's edition of NXT, the Judgment Day member confronted NXT North American Champion Wesley backstage in a segment to challenge for the white and gold brand's mid-card title. "Hey, you're the open challenge guy, right?" Mysterio asked Lee in a mocking tone. "I accept." At this point, a perplexed Lee responded with a "what?" as Mysterio made his intentions clear. "Yeah, I accept your open challenge for the NXT North American title." Lee then informed Mysterio that he had not done an open challenge in a while, appearing somewhat hesitant to accept the same. "I get it, it's because I'm around now, so you don't want to do it," Mysterio responded, following which Rhea Ripley mocked Lee for being a cowardly champion. Lee explained that he stopped doing the open challenges because things got really crazy around here, but ultimately accepted Mysterio's challenge. "If you want to get crazy, say less. I'll go make this happen right now." Subsequently, WWE's Twitter account confirmed Mysterio versus Lee for next week's NXT. Other matches confirmed for the show include Nathan Frazer and Dragon Lee versus Los Lotharios, and Kiana James versus Gigi Dolan in a grudge match. Furthermore, the family will celebrate Tony D'Angelo's homecoming after the Don was freed from prison following Stack's victory over Joe Coffey last night. Next week's match will mark the first ever singles title shot of Mysterio's blossoming WWE career. The third generation wrestler previously held the SmackDown Tag Team Championships alongside his father Rey Mysterio in 2021 and subsequently challenged several times for the Raw Tag Team Championships. It's worth pointing out that Lee is set to defend his title against Mustafa Ali at the upcoming Great American Bash. As such, Mysterio could replace Lee as the champion at the upcoming Premium Live event in Cedar Park, Texas. So what are your thoughts on that? Could Dominik Mysterio win the NXT North American Championship, or do you think Wesley will retain? Speaking of titles in NXT, Ilia Draganov will be challenging for the NXT Championship at the Great American Bash. Ilia Draganov has a habit of taking down dominant wrestlers that are considerably larger than him, and his latest victim is none other than Bron Breakker. On Tuesday night's NXT, Draganov scored a clean, decisive victory over the dominant former NXT champion. Draganov's victory over Breakker earns him a shot at the current NXT champion Carmelo Hayes at the upcoming Great American Bash event on July 30. The win continues Breakker's downward slide. He recently fell to WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins in an embarrassing loss after calling out the main roster champion. Draganov has been menacing the current NXT champion, even going as far back as his feud with Baron Corbin, who recently challenged for the title unsuccessfully during the NXT Gold Rush special. So we are going to be getting Ilia Draganov versus Carmelo Hayes at the NXT Great American Bash. Now, there's been so much talk recently, hasn't there, about Carlito. Carlito's coming back. He's re-signed with WWE, at least that was the rumor. And the report a couple of weeks ago was that Carlito was going to make his big return to WWE after his cameo appearance at Backlash earlier this year, this past Friday at Madison Square Garden for SmackDown Live on Fox. We now know that didn't happen, so what happened? Was he meant to be there? Wasn't he meant to be there? Has he signed? Hasn't he signed? What's the latest going on? As mentioned, various reports had indicated that former Intercontinental Champion Carlito was set to make his official return to WWE as a full-time member of the roster on the July 7 edition of SmackDown at Madison Square Garden, pegged as the start date. With the former WWE star being pulled from independent wrestling shows, this added further fuel to the speculation regarding his return. Per PW Insider, WWE had targeted Carlito for a return at Madison Square Garden on last Friday's episode of SmackDown. Despite not appearing on screen or backstage on the show, company sources confirmed that he traveled to the Northeast for WWE that weekend. A PW Insider reader indicated that Carlito was seen waiting for a flight from Pittsburgh on Sunday. Of course, WWE's medical program is headquartered in Pittsburgh, so he could have been undergoing the standard WWE physical tests. One WWE source said that Carlito's return on the July 7 edition of SmackDown, quote, would have been lost in the wake of the bloodline, so it turned out to be for the best that he was pulled from the show. The reports of Carlito making a WWE return has seen indications he would be aligned with the Latino World Order. However, the LWO group were only used for a cameo appearance on last Friday's show, so we'll have to wait and see what Carlito has planned for when he does return to WWE. But by all accounts, he is going to be coming back. They just didn't want to get him lost in all of the bloodline stuff going on, and he's still undergoing his physical tests. Let's talk about the ratings for Raw. We've spoken about the fallout from Monday Night Raw. Let's talk about the viewership and demo numbers as well. Last week's Raw, thanks to presumably coming in the middle of a long July 4th weekend, took a hit in the Nielsen TV ratings, particularly the key demographic, adults aged 18 to 49, where it was down 20% from the week prior. With the holiday baggage gone and the momentum of a big SmackDown rating 72 hours earlier, how did this week's Raw do? Well, according to WrestleNomics on both its Twitter and Patreon pages, the July 10 episode of Raw averaged 1.809 million viewers overall across its 3 hours, which is down 1% from last week, approximately 727,000 of which were in the 18 to 49 demographic, which is up 15% from the week prior. The latter figure translated to a 0.56 rating. No rankings are available for Monday's cable shows as of this recording, though Programming Insider reported earlier on Tuesday that ESPN's coverage of Major League Baseball Home Run Derby was projected to win the night covering the preliminary ratings for Monday. SpoilerTV.com's report with the final ratings for Monday's slate of primetime broadcast network programming shows Raw beating everything listed there in the 18 to 49, with nothing coming particularly close. For a more comprehensive picture, the WrestleNomics Patreon page tracks how Raw did in various demographics in relation to the median of the prior 4 weeks' numbers. By that metric, most of the shifts were positive, though the only percentage swing to push past Nielsen's stated 10% margin of error was in the men aged 35 to 49 demographic, which is up 12% from the median. So there are the Raw ratings for this week's show. WWE stock continues to surge right now. Of course, we know that later on this year, or certainly in this half of the year, WWE is going to merge with the UFC to form TKO under the Endeavor umbrella after Endeavor acquired WWE earlier this year in April. WWE stock price has surged consistently since the start of 2023, when news broke that the company was for sale, and that price shot up further when a merger with the UFC was announced in April. On Tuesday, WWE hit a new milestone on that trajectory as the stock price hit an all-time high of what Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics reports as $112.22. Yahoo Finance lists the peak at a penny less, $112.21. The stock price had been hovering around $99 to $110 since the merger announcement, but again, an all-time high hit yesterday. The company itself, just to give a bit of comparison to where they started and where they are right now, the company first went public in October of 1999 with an initial share price of $17, changing its corporate name from Titan Sports to World Wrestling Federation Entertainment in the process. At the time, the business was on fire on the backs of Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, and so Vince McMahon was striking while the iron was hot. The initial efforts to expand the scope of the business using the company's newfound cash reserves did not go very well, though, with the WWF New York themed restaurant in Times Square and the original version of the XFL being huge money-bleeding failures. The company's movie studio would also be besieged by red ink for years as well. In time, though, WWE's position as a publicly traded company earned it some respectability, particularly after Stephanie McMahon worked tirelessly to reshape the company's image in her 9-year stint as the chief brand officer, all while the increase in value for live content turned domestic television rights fees into WWE's biggest revenue driver by far. Now, in a bit of an update on this, it surged even higher because WWE stock closed at $111 on July 11, breaking the previous record of $109.35 set on April 21st, 2023, again, because of the merger. It's huge numbers for WWE, and let me know your thoughts on it. Is this just a sign of where WWE is right now with this impending merger of the UFC? Just unprecedented, really, success for the company, not in terms of just stock price, but also in terms of gates at arenas, ticket prices. WWE just at the moment hitting on all cylinders. Finally, are the Creed brothers the new members of the Schism? Well, this is very, very interesting. After her loss against NXT Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton, Ivy Nile was confronted backstage by Diamond Mine rivals the Schism. Since last week's edition of NXT saw Julius and Brutus Creed lose a loser leaves NXT match against the Dyad, their absence was noticeable for Ivy Nile. Making her in-ring entrance alone, Nile was clearly feeling their departure, but in the subsequent backstage scene, it appeared she may not be without them after all. With the 4 members of the Schism, Joe Gacy, Ava, Jagger Reed and Rip Fowler appearing with at least 5 mysterious masked members in their exchange with Ivy Nile, there were 2 that looked particularly forlorn as they walked away. With 2 members of the squad certainly having their hoods up, the 2 on the furthest left certainly appeared to be quite familiar as they looked like the Creed brothers. You can check out the pictures you can see on the screen right there. So, do you think that's the Creed brothers, and where do you think this storyline is going from here? Let me know your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below. But there you go, guys. This latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.